I want to get to this next story because I'm a little confused as to why this came up now. And then I think to myself, well, of course it came up now because if you watch the opening of the Canada-USA hockey game last week, you took, 9 seconds? We had 3 fights, including one before the puck was even dropped. So I think for a lot of people in the building, number one, I don't want to say it was entertaining to watch, but it certainly was not something that anyone could have expected. And then I read today that Enrico Ciccone, who is a former NHL player, decided to try and introduce a motion, at least tabled one, recognizing the harmful and detrimental effects of violence and brawling in sports. Brought that up in the National Assembly, hoping for it to be debated upon, but it was not. Enrico Ciccone is on the line. Enrico, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Rand.
Help me. Don't call me Mr. Rand because just Aaron is good. You make me feel really old.
Aaron.
But I want to understand this. So, listen, when you played, you had your share of fights, as many others did. What made you decide to, introduce this now? Did it have to do with what you saw last week?
Well, because it came from a speech from the premier. And through my years here in the National Assembly, we became better about fighting. There's no more fighting in the Major Junior Hockey League that we're proud of. We put a lot of pressure on that league, and there's no more fighting. It's illegal. And after that game, when they talked to the premier said, I'm not against fighting. And when you want to get back at somebody from a cheap shot, well, it's a good idea. Then I'm saying, are you kidding me? We're having the premier. We try to protect kids. I know I went through fighting. I know what the repercussion on your head, on your brain about concussions. We know what's going on with this. Then we hear the premier saying things like that, and the kids hear that. Me, it was too much for me, and I had to say something.
So you bring it up. I'm trying to remember back, though, to the premier's comments, though. Yeah, you're right. They sound, if you don't necessarily hear the whole thing, like he was saying, this is great. Look how exciting it was. But then he also added, didn't he, Enrico, that, you know what, it was just the beginning of the game and it shouldn't have happened then. It wasn't in the regular course of the game.
Oh, exactly. That I agree with that 100%. Of course, everybody that sees that, is excited and they can't wait for the game to go on. And that I agree with the premier 100%. But after that, he said, but by the way, I'm not against fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what? You're not against fighting? There's the minister, Isabelle Charette. She's a minister of sports. We fought together. We agree on that to put pressure on the league to ban fighting. And it happened. We did it together. And now you hear the premier going backwards and saying it's okay about the fighting. And it's okay when you have a cheap shot to give it back to the other player and fight. For me, that was it was too much because Mr. Rand, Aaron, you have to understand where I come from. I have a lot of teammates, older teammates that commit suicide. They had CTE. We just learned today that Bobby Hall had CTE also. So this is a problem in hockey. It was like that before, and we didn't know better. So there was a lot of headshots, a lot of fighting, and now I have teammates my age that have dementia in the 50s. They have early Alzheimer's and they stutter. And for me, I cannot be here as a legislator and not to do anything to protect the younger kids in Quebec.
You're right about the fact that we know more now, right? We didn't perhaps, a generation ago, but we do know how dangerous it can be. And you're describing some cases of even people you played with, and that's not that long ago, who are now dealing with these. But they basically said when you brought this up, they weren't allowed, you weren't allowed to debate this on the floor.
Exactly, because I brought a motion in today, and everybody, I rarely saw that. After I read my motion, all the oppositions, PQ and QS, they all stand up to applaud me. This is very rare that happens, except for la CAQ. In la CAQ, they just threw it out. They said, pas de consentement. So it was really hurtful because what I'm saying, the motion is that, we condemn those words, those speeches, and we cannot do that. And I don't know why they did it.
So
to protect the premier, I guess.
I'm wondering, though, so where it goes from here, because obviously, as I said, as you just mentioned, we know it's bad for you. What would you like to see happen beyond a debate? Is there somehow you want to extend this to say, in minor league hockey, nobody should be allowed to do this? What would happen next?
Well, actually, I deposited a bill twice, actually. One this legislator, and it's to ban fighting with leagues that have players under 18 years old, which is directly to the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and that's what I propose as a bill, so it becomes a law. And but the league, it's still pending. The government, they still have the choice to call it, and we can study it and make it as a law. But the league had so much pressure that with their rules, they decided to stop fighting. And when there's a fight, it's out of the game. So, but my bill is still there. It's still on the shelf, and hopefully they will call it. Yeah.
What do you say to people? Because we had this discussion the day after it happened. Actually, you're talking about, was it the right thing, the wrong thing? I mean, did you as a fan, when you're watching this, say, "Hey, way to go! They're fighting. I love this." What do you say to people like that who celebrate this?
Well, you know what? I've had some hard words, especially on the fans that will go see Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and there's a bunch of 15, 16, 17-year-old, and they used to fight, and you pay your $30 to go see minors fighting. For me, I couldn't understand why you like to see that, because we would never accept that in our schoolyards, and we accept it. We accept it on the ice. I know it's excitement. I know that it's fun. I know it's good to see, but think about the person who received that shot on the head, in the face, the concussion that he will have to go through, all the things that can happen to him in the future, in the long term, also injuries. Me, that's how I see it now. A lot of people, they call me hypocrite because they said, you played that game, you did it, you made a lot of money out of doing this, and now you don't want that to happen. Of course, I know how I feel in my body, I know what I feel in my head, and I don't want anybody to feel that, what I'm feeling right now. I want to protect them.
And I think that alone, from someone who went through it, would have even more validity, than someone who just looks at it and goes, yeah, what difference does it make? So look, I hope you get something with this.
I hope so, and thank you very much, because, after my question yesterday, the Premier said, without that, you wouldn't have any career. So that shows you the respect that he has for us.
What did he say,
me.
Without what?
After I asked my question, he said, he goes, you wouldn't have that kind of career if you wouldn't have fought. So,
wow.
So that's how he is.
That's a low blow.
It is. It was hurtful. I don't want to be a victim here, but it was hurtful because in our career of hockey, they take us very young from school. We turn pros at 18, 19, 20, and we don't have that schooling, and we always try to prove that we're not stupid, we're intelligent, we can do good in society, and you hear the Premier to say that about yourself. I thought it was cheap shot.
Kind of with you on that. Did you ask for an apology? Will you?
No, because he will not do that. So, but we used to that. That's the way he is. Anyway.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Enrico, I want to thank you. I appreciate it. I wish you luck, my friend.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Aaron.
Enrico
Bye-bye.
Ciccone, Liberal MNA. Imagine saying that to somebody who was good enough to play a professional in the NHL. And to say to him, well, without fighting, you wouldn't have had anything. You wouldn't have had a career. That's really just so low and so unnecessary. I think he should demand an apology.